Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, today is our first installment of the October craft along. This project we're going to do first is we're going to break out our sewing machines here, and we're going to make the drawstring tote here. The example I made was in Christmas colors because that's right around the corner. And here in Michigan, our Upper Peninsula actually is going to get snow here tonight, so it's not too far off. We're going to be making our Halloween to keep with the October theme today. And as always, the projects made in the craft along with you guys will be available at the end of the month for the giveaway. And don't forget to stay tuned because I will be posting the winner of the September Cal giveaway here very soon. So keep posted with that. Also if you like to keep up updates, I also update my Instagram and Facebook, so keep updating that. And as always, like and subscribe down below and hit that bell so that you can know when I upload new content. And alright, so in just a second we'll talk about what you need to do this project and we'll get started. Okay, so in order to do this tutorial or this craft along video, this is the bag here. And in our example, I also made a square plastic canvas bottom that I just simply, let me open this up for you. You can see that it opens right up and the bottom comes right out of this one. And all I did was hot glue a piece of fabric to a piece of plastic canvas, and then it tucks right down in there, as you can see, and makes a nice little bottom. And then it's opened up and you can put little skeins of yarn in there for a project. It fits right down in there. It's a nice cute little project bag. Of course, this is my hand dyed yarn that I made in another tutorial on my here on YouTube, and I used my ball winder to make it into this little donut cake here. So and I'm gonna be uploading a video very soon to show you how to do that. But this would be a cute little project bags for projects on the go, and then it has this little drawstring here, and we'll just zip that right up. And there you go. So, alright, so in order to make this project today, you're going to need a piece of either ribbon, or this is paracord, something sturdy. You can use webbing, whatever type of drawstring you would like, or drawstring material. So you need a length of that. I do believe that this measures, let's see here, I should have pre-measured this before I started recording, but this one measures about 22 inches. It's just a piece of scrap that I had, so, but I know that I checked it beforehand. I know that it will fit, but I will put a, down below in the description, I will put the exact measurements for the patterns for this project. You will also need a couple quilting templates. You can get these at most craft stores or fabric stores in your area. I'm not sure. Here in Michigan we have big box stores that sell fabric, and then we have local fabric stores. So any of those places where you get your fabric to make things should have these. I used the 4.5 inch square and the 9-inch square here. So that's what we'll use to cut those out. And then you need a couple fabrics. You need for this project we did 2 different fabrics. You don't have to put this little binding type piece here if you don't want to, but I just think it gives a little extra character. Oops. But so we have 2 different Halloween fabrics here. I just bought or actually I have these laying around, but you just buy 2 fat quarters. I believe a fat quarter measures, and I will, if I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments, but I do believe a fat quarter measures 18 inches by like 20 inches roughly. I could be wrong, so if I am, please correct me in the comments. That way the viewers can see if I'm right or wrong, and that way they know to get the right thing. But I'm pretty sure they measure 18 by 20. So we just need this little strip of binding here. And again, I will put the measurements for all the fabric down in the description box. And then with the other fat quarter, we cut out our bag. And oops, this is left over from when I made something else. But you can also use, if you don't have a 4.5 inch, you can also use a 3.5, because really what we use this for is to cut out our little spots here. So like I said, use, in each one of your pieces of fabric, you're going to need 2 of them. So see, I have 2 pieces here. You also need 2 of this piece here. Okay, so that is what you need. And then of course you need a sewing machine, which we have here, and a pair of scissors, and matching or coordinating thread, or non-coordinating if you choose. It's completely up to you. That's, like I said before, that's the best thing about crafting, and there's no right or wrong. You do it however you feel. All right, so now I'm going to get myself organized here, and I'll meet you back here at the sewing machine. Okay, so I wanted to show you real quick, for this piece here, I went ahead and cut it out of my fat quarter. This piece measures 9 inches along, 9 inches across here, and 2.5 inches wide. The extra 1/2 inch, it counts for the 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around when you're going to sew this piece. And then for my body of the bag, I went ahead and took my 9 inch template here, and I laid it out on my fat quarter, as you can see here. And I literally just cut all the way around the edges to make a 9.5 by 9.5 square. Again, the 1/2 inch is accounting for the seam allowance. And then to make the little notches so that the bag will sit nicely like this, I just took our smaller template like I talked about here. This one is the 3.5, and I just lined it up like this. And I cut out a 2-inch square on both sides. You can see that my template here lines up nicely. So it's a 2-inch square out of both sides, and that will create this pleat here, or little seam here. That'll help it so it will sit flat like this, like a lunch sack. Actually, this could be also double as a lunch sack. You could make these into little lunch sacks. Great Christmas gifts coming up, guys. Okay, so now we're going to switch over here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare our sewing machine. So I have already preloaded my my thread and my bobbin, but you would want to do so. I got my coordinating thread up here, and then I got my bobbin in place. And I have my stitches set on my machine. My stitches have a 6.5 width and a 2-inch length on the straight stitch there. And I have a tension of number 4, which seems to work quite nicely for my machine. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with taking our pieces and preparing them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the camera here, and so I always like to start with the binding piece and just get that done and out of the way. So I have to confess that a lot of sewers out there and YouTube sewers are going to cringe when I tell them and say this, but I am not a I don't know how to say this. I guess I'm a lazy sewer. I know that fabric, I know quite well that fabric comes quite dirty off the stuff, and you should wash them. But I like the look of when you sew things and you wash them after it's all sewn together, and how it all binds together. I don't know, I just feel like it makes your piece more stronger. That's just my personal opinion. I know that that's not you're supposed to. Obviously, I would highly recommend, washing your fabrics and making sure that there's nothing on them. However, that's just my personal preference, but that completely up to you. I would recommend, though, if you are worried about it, to go ahead and, yes, definitely wash them, because there is sometimes sizing in there they use to stiffen the fabric just so that it's easier to cut and stay on the bolts when they make it. But also, this one I pre-ironed, but I didn't iron the other piece. Again, I am terrible. I'm not big with the iron. I will do a lot of some of that when I quilt and things, but I am quite good at pinning and finger pressing, as I call it, which is folding this over and kind of pressing it down with your finger like this. Again, I know that will make a lot of you cringe, and I'm really sorry, but that's just how I do things. Now, again, I would recommend pressing it if that's what you like to do. But again, I just after I wash it, I press it out, and everything seems to work out okay. And so far, so good. So you will cringe and see that some of my fabrics are a little wrinkly, but I promise you that in the end, everything will look okay. All right. So we're going to start with these pieces here. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay them out here on the thing, and you're going to turn it over so that the wrong side, if you can see here, this is the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side of the fabric. So we're going to work on the wrong side of the fabric. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing. We're going to be sewing this hemline here to have that folded over so that it gives it a nice clean look. All right, so what we're going to do is I am going to take, again, if you want to use your iron, you can. I'm just going to finger press it till it's good for me, and then I will take it over to my sewing machine. You could also pin this if you'd like, if you feel a little more comfortable with that. And I'm just eyeballing, but you want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance if you're using a ruler. But I'm just eyeballing this 1/4 inch. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this to both of them, because we're going to do both of them right now. And we're going to go ahead and go over here to the sewing machine. And I'm going to put my piece on there. And I'm going to line it up. And again, you want to use that 1/4 inch seam allowance because we've adjusted for that in the piecing. My sewing machine likes it to be like right there. All right, so you're going to put your sewing piece under the sewing machine, and you go ahead and start stitching. I like to go ahead and take a moment now and back stitch here just a moment, and now go forward. And you can go as fast or as slow as you need to. Sometimes, depending on if I'm distracted or doing things, I go a little bit slow because I just want to make sure I get that good seam allowance down. Make sure you don't pinch your finger. I have never done it, but I know people who have. Okay, and then when you get down to the end here, you're just going to go back stitch again real quick and then come forward. And my machine's not one of those fancy ones that stops for you, so I have to stop it. And then we're going to clip our little string here. Pass that off. All right, and now we're going to trim our ends here. I'm just going to cut off these little ends here. Now on the back one, it doesn't really matter, but, well, I guess you can just trim it here because this is going to get caught in the seam allowance. Alrighty. So let me snip my little string over here on the other one. Alright, so as you can see here, we have now created this nice, let me zoom in. We have created this really nice seam right here. And if you flip it over, you'll see that we've, again, created that nice little seam there. And so this is what it should look like all the way down. All right, so now we're going to do that to the other side and then do it to our other piece. And then I'll meet you back here in just a second. All right, so I've come to the end of the second piece here. Trim my tails. And so there you have it. So there's our two pieces that are going to go, they're like our little sleeve, little binding here, little cuff or whatever you want to call them, but they're going to go right there on our piece. So we have both of those done, because you can see we have one on each side. So we have both of those done. So now what we're going to do is prepare our other pieces. So now we take our other pieces, and also I think I forgot to mention, but you're going to want to have some pins available or handy to pin your stuff. Okay, so now we're going to take our pieces here. So what we're going to do is prepare them for the binding piece on the front, and also for our spot where we're going to have our drawstring coming out of. So normally on your drawstring, you when you're making a drawstring bag, you have the drawstrings come out of either end, and so you would leave an opening on either end, but we're just going to have the drawstring coming out the one side. So instead of sewing so far and then stopping and then so far and stop and then going, we're going to sew down all the way down one side, and then we're going to stop and start on the other side to make it so that we can have that drawstring sleeve. Or pocket, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up our fabrics right sides together. Remember this, it's kind of hard to tell on this one, and some fabrics are like that, but this one, sometimes what you can tell is this one's a little more dull and how this one's more vibrant. So this is the wrong side. So we're going to put our right sides together, and you want to try to match them up as evenly as you can. And I am going to put a few pins in here, just because I just want to make sure that they stay together pretty well. Because if they don't line up really good, then you could have an issue. Alright, so just go ahead and shove a few pins in here. You can pin any way you would like to. I pin any, I don't necessarily know there's a certain way of doing things. Again, I am a break the rules kind of gal and do things my own way. I take the patterns that you get as suggestions, and then read through them and then tweak them and do them my own way, because that's how I've always done it. So, and I like the freedom of being able to do my own thing. So, okay. So we're going to pin this up, and I'll meet you back here in a second. Alright, so while I'm pinning this, I just want to point out that the one side, like I said, we're going to sew all the way down. But on this side, we're actually going to... See, I have my pin separated like this. So on this side, I just have the pins going all the way down. But on this side, if I zoom in and show you... So we need to be able to create eventually, after we sew these together, we're gonna fold the seam over, and we're going to create a little pocket for the cording. So I've placed my pins in such a way so that this is going to end up being our little tube for the cording, because when we get this sewn together, we're going to then flip this down to here. So you kind of want to fold it over and kind of see where you want that to land and put your pin there. So that way you know where to stop and start sewing, so that you can have that hole be open. Because if you don't have a hole there, then you don't have anywhere to put a pocket, then the pocket for the tubing or for your string. So I just wanted to point that out. So you just want to leave, because what we're going to do is we're going to sew from here to here. We're going to leave this open, and then we're going to sew from here all the way to the bottom. And then on the other side, we're just going to sew all the way down, because we're not leaving an opening, because we're just having the drawstring come out the one side. All right, so let's take this over to the sewing machine, and we'll see how to do that. So again, we're going to use that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to put this right under here. And the tricky part about this is because this is going to come up here to where your seam is. So if you want to pull out your pin just a hair, and we're going to sew kind of quickly here right to that pin. If you have to, use your hand and just crank your needle forward until you get to that pin, and then backspace again and come right up to that pin. And then you're going to go ahead and lift your presser foot up, pull your pin out, and then turn your needle so that it's up. Go ahead and pull this out and snip it. And snip your tails just because you don't want them to get in your way and mess you up. All right, and now we're going to stick this back under our needle, and we're going to put the back end of our presser foot. So back here, the back end of the presser foot, let me point that out here, zoom in. So we're going to put this back end of the presser foot right here at this part of the needle here, the pin. So that way we can go back and forth and have a good seam. So I'm going to line this up. And again, this is just a trick, and you pull the pin out there so you don't have to accidentally hit it. And again, this is just tricks that work for me. There's all different kinds of ways to sew, and you know, there is really no right or wrong as long as the finished project comes out the way you like it. Like I said, this is just what works for me. So, and I hope that my tutorials help you. And if they do, remember, just get that thumbs up there, and I'll know that, you know, you're showing some love and you're interested in this kind of content, because, you know, going forward, I need to know what kind of content you're interested in so that I can keep the channel updated and fresh and keep everybody happy. All right, so we're going to continue going through here. We're going to pin, or we're going to sew from here to here, and then again, we're going to sew all the way at the other end. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this up and meet you back here in a second. Okay, so now you should have both of your sides sewn together like this with your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you see we left our little hole here for the pocket for the cording. And now we're going to do the bottom here so that we can get this, have that flat bottom. So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to pin it, but if you feel more comfortable, you can just stick a few pins in here. But we're going to pin the bottom, and we're going to sew from here to there. And then we're going to turn it in such a way that will seal off in the little corners. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and sew from here to here, and then I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our bag like this. So we're going to open up the bag like this, and we're going to fold it kind of on itself so that the seams match up there in the middle. If you can see that. We want the seams to match in the middle, like so. And then I will go ahead and stick a pin there just to hold that. So we're going to stick a pin like this just to hold that. Okay. And so now we're going to create this flat kind of line here to create that flat bottom. And that's what it's going to give us, is this flat bottom like you see here on the example. Okay. So I'm going to cut a couple more pins in here like so. Oops. Put a couple more pins in. Kind of straighten and line this up. And then we're going to come over to the sewing machine. And again, with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's usually a standard rule of thumb, but some patterns and some people like other, but that's works best for me. So we're going to pull that first pin out now that we have it underneath our machine, and we're going to go ahead and sew. Remember to pull your pins out as you go, because if you run them over, you will be sorry. You'll break your needles, and it'll be a whole big mess. It's okay to kind of let the machine run off the side there a little bit. It just helps secure it a little bit more. Okay. So now what you're going to see is we've now flattened that down. So when we turn this inside out, and I'll do that just to kind of show you here what we're looking at. You turn it inside out. You get that nice flat edge. See how that is? All right, so go ahead and do that to the other side, and I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so I realized when I I got ahead of myself, and that happens sometimes when you're making YouTube videos, and I forgot to show you how to attach your little strip here. I went ahead and attached this one, but the way you're supposed to do it, and I just attached it on the top and top stitch it down, but how you should have done it was when we laid these two right sides together, we should have laid this down with it and pre-sewn it so that the edges would get caught in the seam. It still looks really fine and really good, but yeah, so I was supposed to show you how to do that, and I do apologize for that, and maybe in a future video we'll make another bag and I will show you how to do that. Like I said, you would just lay this on the, let's just say this is your piece of fabric. You would lay this on here, and we would have sewn this down around all the edges. And then when we laid these two pieces together, right sides together, then the sandwich would have caught the edges. So I do apologize for that. I do get ahead of myself sometimes when I'm working on my own stuff. So, like I said, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask me. I will try to describe it as best I can, or even maybe make a little video to show you what I mean, and add it. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I'll do. At the end of this video, there'll be a short little snippet of how to do that. Okay, so now what we have to do to finish up this bag is turn down our hem, so that we can place our cording. So what you're going to do is, it's going to be kind of awkward, but you're going to want to, oops, I have a string here. So you're going to want to turn this back inside out, and you're going to want to fold your hem kind of like this, like you'd be rolling a cuff, and you want it to come down so that the opening, and I gotta find the side with the opening. Okay, so this is your opening side, so you want to fold it down far enough so that your opening right here, when you open it back out, starts at the top and is there. So that is how far down you fold it there, so that when you hold it upright, your opening is at the top there. And then we're going to sew this down all around. We're going to sew it down all around this edge here with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So go ahead and get your piece all folded under. And again, when you were doing these craft alongs, if you make any of the projects on your own, I would love to see what you've made. So if you could send me a picture of it in my Instagram or my Facebook page, that would be awesome. I would love to see what you've made. Okay, and as you can see here, I took this piece off my machine so that we can kind of work, and it helps us work in a rounded fashion. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put this on our sewing machine like so. I'm going to just put this over, just like you're covering it up, like with a hat. And we're going to shove this on the machine. And this time we're going to line up your, zoom in here. This time you're going to line up your edge of your fabric here on the cuff on this edge of the presser foot, and then you will have that 1/4 inch seam allowance there instead of on this side. It's a little awkward, but it works best for working in this kind of space that we have here. All right, so we're just going to line that up. I like to start on one of the little edges here just because I think that it just works out well. Again, that's completely up to you. And then you'll just want to feed this along as you go. And we'll meet you on the other side of this. Let's see. So as you can see, I'm just following that edge over here and guiding the fabric around with my other hand, going as slow as you need to make sure that everything flows nicely. You get that nice clean edge. We get that nice pocket there for our cording. You're going to come right up to the where you started, kind of go over it a little bit, backspace, go over, and then turn your needle up and pull your work out of the sewing machine. Trim your threads. I'm going to put my little thing back on here. All right, so let me just see if I got all my threads trimmed. All right, so now what we're going to do is we should be done with our sewing machine for the moment. So move that out of the way, and so I'm going to turn this back right side out. And you'll see that it gave you that nice clean edge for your pocket for your cording all the way around. Now, like I said, if you want that bottom to be sturdy with a piece of plastic canvas, you just cut it to size and cut the a piece of coordinating fabric and hot glue it all the way around, and then you will stick it down there and it'll make that nice folded hard edge when it stands up and that hard bottom. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take, and now I have this little tool that I bought at my local fabric store. Let's see, I think it's made by Dritz, and it's just this little elongated little thing here, and it helps me feed the tubing through because it has a little hole there. This is also great for turning out, like if you have a tube of fabric that you need to turn inside out, this little flap here helps with that greatly. But we're going to be using this part of it right here. So what I'm going to do is get my piece of cording, and you go ahead and feed it through this little hole here and pull it out, and then kind of pull it down to anchor it. Okay, so then we're going to find our side with the opening. Now if you were doing a double-sided drawstring, so you'd have a drawstring coming out here and a drawstring coming out over there, you would feed the one side first all the way completely around, and then you would go ahead and you would, oop, I got some strings there. You would go ahead and then feed the other side coming all the way around, and that way it has that dual effect. So you're going to shove this little tool in your little opening here, and you're just going to feed it all the way around. On the smaller ones here it gets a little tricky, but the thing I like about this is that it bends quite nicely because it's plastic. So I can get that all the way around. Just keep shoving it through. Just make sure when you're shoving it that this piece doesn't go all the way in, because that way you won't lose it. And just keep working it all the way around till you see it coming out the other side. Takes a minute or two to kind of keep feeding that through. If you don't have one of these tools, you can always use the old-fashioned method of a safety pin or something like that, but you just need something to anchor it. Now see what I did? I went ahead and I pulled it all the way through because I was talking. All right, so I'm going to fix that and I'll be right back here in a second. Okay, so now I've fixed my problem and you're just going to go and pull out your piece there. All right, so now you should have two ends sticking out here. All right, so now you're almost finished with your bag. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie a knot. I'm going to pull it on it just a little and then just tie a knot so that way we have a stopping point for the cording. And you can end these in any way you'd like to. Some people just like to burn the ends of the lighter. I'm actually going to hot glue a piece of fabric to the ends to make it have a little more decorative look like our other one here. But that's completely up to you. And then as you can see, you just go ahead and you give it a tug and your bag closes right up. I just think that these are just super cute for projects. Like I said, I showed you there how they held a bag of yarn, but they're super cute, and then they open right up, and you can, like I said, customize these any way you'd like. You can make the drawstrings come out the other side. You know, there's all kinds of ways to make this bag in the way that you would like. All right, so and when we're you know, like I said, all of these projects that we make are going to be given away in the giveaways at the end of the craft alongs. So in this craft along for October, you will get this Halloween project bag, and you will get the Christmas project bag. So you'll get 2 project bags this month, and then and then that includes when we do the next craft alongs, you'll get those items as well. All right, well, that just about does it here for the project bag. I thank you so much for following along and watching and sticking around with the channel. And like I said before, if you like the content, please like and subscribe and hit that little bell so you can be updated when I update and upload new videos. And like I said, and I've always said before, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Or if you have an idea for a content or a video you'd like to see a tutorial on, or something you'd like me to talk about, or a project, or, you know, a product, or anything you'd like me to discuss, just please let me know, and I would be glad to figure out what the answer is for that for you. And so again, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And as always, so what is in your craft room today? Okay guys, so I told you that I would, at the end of the video, show you what I meant about sandwiching. So let's just say these are your 2 pieces of your bag, for example. When you were preparing the pieces, before we put the right sides together to then do up our seams, you would take your channel piece for your decorative piece in the front, and we're just going to use this as an example so you can see, and you would go ahead and you would sew this, top stitch this down to the top of your fabric. So you'd figure out below your opening for your cording where you'd want this to be, and you would sew it down all the way around, top stitching all the way around on both sides. Then once that's complete, so let's say that's complete here, and we have that completely top stitched all the way down on both sides, on both pieces, or you can just have it on one piece, either way. So once you have that top stitch all the way around, you take your top and bottom piece of your bag, and that's when we came to the point in the video where you would do the right sides together. So you would go like this, right sides together, and then you're going to, and then they would go ahead and do your, you know, stitching here, stop for the opening, come down, stitch some more all the way down, and then stitch all the way down like so. And then once you turned that inside out, and let's just say for argument purposes we did so, then see, all the ugly would be hid in the seam and you wouldn't have to have edges. So that is how you would do that. Again, if you need more instruction on that, please let me know. And again, I plan on making more project bags with you different ways, so I do believe in some future episodes we're going to do a larger version of the drawstring backpacks. So like I said, I will make sure to remember to show you that more in detail. And I apologize again for getting ahead of myself and skipping. But like I said before, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for bearing with me with my human mistakes. And thanks for subscribing to the channel. I really, really appreciate all of you. I couldn't do this without the support of my family that I have, my mom, my dad, my husband, my kids, and I'm really thankful that everybody is sticking with me. And if you have any friends that you think you would like the channel, just, you know, go ahead and recommend them. More the merrier. We're going to be a big old crafting family here, and we're going to have a lot of adventures. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on So What Home Party.